Okay, so here's a topic that could get censored if anyone gave a shit what I say, which is one of the great things about having like no following at all, is that I might be able to get a video across on the absolute bottom of the internet on these main sites like YouTube or something. All right, so like okay, I more or less understand or believe that COVID is not really about a virus. That's kind of like this right hand of the left hand lockstep and everything, and it brings about World Economic Forum, New World Order, and the Great Reset, and all this good stuff. And it's like for me, there's at times where I feel really right wing and against it, and I want to rage against it. But other times it's like, well, it might be kind of interesting, and history is always changing. And in that sense, I can be more open-minded and more on the left wing traditionally as well. And I ideally like being on both of those places because then I'm a fully functioning Volhel, fully functioning bird with both wings. Hey, um, but yeah. So like I saw Event 201 very early on in the pandemic, which was like this high level exercise showing um, a fictional pandemic um, that would go on like worldwide, and it started in Brazil, whereas COVID-19 actually started in China. Supposedly, it was probably deployed all over the place. I don't know how it spread. It didn't. It spread according to plan or according to prediction. Um, so and that was done by Johns Hopkins, which previously I didn't realize how like important and powerful Johns Hopkins was. I thought it was just a a medical um, like hospital and university, but it's actually been involved in military war games and stuff like that for a long time. So it's not just health, okay? And if you think it's just health, then um, wise up. Yeah, Johns Hopkins, World Economic Forum, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is, of course, a totally pure philanthropic organization with absolutely no interest in power. They just want what's best for us all. Um, yeah, so those three organizations created Event 201, and the way I see it is like that simulation went down for these higher level people, scared the shit out of them on a television, on a television, a fictional television channel called GNN. So this is something weird because I just watched the Left Behind series with Kirk Cameron, and I was ultimately like disappointed. At the beginning, it was like, "Whoa, this is like wild," and it shows how this could go down today. But the way it um, concluded was like, no, man, you took the Jesus out of Revelation. You took like the real thing out of there. Anyway, it was an attempt, um, and it was very prescient. It's still very prescient for. I think it was made in 2000, 2002, and 2005. It's a um, trilogy. Anyway, GNN is also the fictional CNN used in Left Behind, the Left Behind Christian apocalyptic uh, trilogy of movies, and then Event 201 GNN. So I'm like, what? Right there, that was pretty wild. So if you haven't seen Event 201, watch it, and then allow yourself a few hours to go, oh shit, what the fuck have I been doing for the last year thinking that this shit was a real pandemic. It is a real pandemic. Not no, it's not. It's not a real pandemic. But on TV it is. So yeah, this GNN thing, which when I saw Event 201, I assumed it meant Gates News Network, and then I'm like, what what in the Left Behind series? What was GNN there? So I still have some major questions. Anyway, so okay, at the beginning of this, what if Bill Gates would have gotten everything he wanted right away? There would have been a digital certificate along with a vaccine. So like the vaccines weren't developed fast enough or something like that. If the vaccines would have been developed for this COVID, or they had to cover up that they patented the virus, I don't know, that could be hearsay. It's hard to tell. Because, I mean, the first thing I saw about COVID-19 when I looked into it was, or besides worldometers readings going slowly up, I remember when it was at like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, it was like nothing. And where I was downplaying it, a lot of people were downplaying it. It's like, oh, there's more snake bite deaths that happen in COVID or whatever. But anyway, so like, what am I really trying to say here? Yeah, ID 2020 started at the beginning of 2020 by Microsoft, and it was funded by the Rockefellers, who were the old robber barons and philanthropists. There's a great word for like the kind of philanthropy this is, because it's like philanthropy mixed with taking over the world. I forget what the term is, but it's great. And so if you're like really on the left wing and don't see anything on the right wing traditionally, you don't want to admit that people try to take over the world at all. And it's so naive, but it's like on the right wing, there's also a naivety of not wanting to change anything and thinking that you at this moment in history have all of the good stuff, and there's nothing in the future that's going to be better or at least exciting. So, you know, there's naivety on both of those traditional whatever the fricks. But what I really meant to say, I meant to say a bunch of stuff. But yeah, if Bill Gates would have gotten everything he wanted, everything he aimed for, and of course, like you aim high. If you're trying to knock something down the sim sum of the creation of things, you start big. Like if you're selling something and you're bartering back and forth, and you really want like $500 for something, maybe you start at $750. Or if you know the person really wants to knock you down, you start at 1,000 because you know they're going to knock you down farther. And knock you down is the what Noam Chomsky's called the second superpower. I don't know what the hell he would call it these days, because he's enough ensconced in certain kinds of power where he wouldn't rage against certain kinds of world governance because they pay his bills and they suck his dick and whatever. But you know, we would have. I don't know if we would have had chips here yet, but it's like there is this normalization that can ultimately push the literal mark of the beast from the Bible, which is a mark in the right hand or the forehead, or you can't buy and sell. So we have the normalization of this now. In Sweden, you see, and even in Milwaukee, there are some companies that have this, where they put the RFID chip that includes biometric information about you and your health potentially, and your finances in your right hand specifically. So that's half of the right hand of the forehead. And the other thing is the forehead. So it's like we have these forehead scans now at different businesses where they can, it's like step one towards doing something like that. We'll scan your forehead for your temperature, and then you'll get used to that. A certain amount of people get used to that. The people with no faith in God or knowledge of the Bible at all will go straight into that because there's nothing else to believe in. And then that can be quickly switched to like, oh, these new identification systems. If you have an amputated right hand or something, you can just scan your forehead, and it's just like the temperature scans that we had before, like conveniently, you know. And then we'll act like, or certain people act like, oh, like I never saw that coming. But you got to understand that it's like people who want to take over the world have plans so far in advance, and contingencies so far in advance. Did you know that there's something called Vision 2050 that has plans, like specific plans for land use and all sorts of different shit. It's like a 50-page document you can find online. It's part of Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 ultimately. That goes even further, just for Wisconsin, just for our like southeastern Wisconsin regions. Vision 2050. Look it up. It's not extremely hard, or it's not extremely easy to find, but it's not extremely hard either. And there's plans like this all over the world with different aims. And it's like just because these plans are in place doesn't mean that they will ultimately manifest, because the Nazis had land use plans, and like district plans for taking over United States, and they never got across the Atlantic, but they had plans too. And we're sitting here right now at a point in history where there still are many decisions from many different game players, including yourself, that are yet to be made. And so there's no inevitability, but there are plans in place. And you know what, man, especially as somebody who is just about to finish up a manifestation of the Manifest Lexicon, doing 100 albums of music. I'm on 93 or whatever. That takes planning, and with good plans, things manifest if there's nothing standing in the way of that. So like, luckily I don't have somebody who's trying to take me down that much, because not many people give a shit. But hey, we should give a shit about the way the world is actually going, and even if you're a conservative, you should think about planning and think big, because other people are thinking big. There are other people thinking so big, they are a trillion steps ahead of you. And it's with stuff that you don't like and you don't want for your kids. And your kids probably aren't going to be able to figure out, even if they're super smart. I shouldn't say that. That's I don't know what's going to happen. But like, I guess from a Christian perspective, and especially from like a Book of Revelation perspective, it's like we have these prophecies, man, and the Gideons put them in every hotel room ever. So even if you were like screwing off, doing some shit that you weren't supposed to in a hotel, you still had a chance to read this kind of stuff. And if it didn't go through your mind at least one time, what were you doing? 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 I'm sure that like, and we're hit with this in many judgment days that happen, or it's like, the divine intelligence could say to us, I gave you, let's go back in the record, I gave you literally 1 million chances, and you took none of them. So I'm trying to think of like all the times that's probably been true for me. But anyway, I'm trying to talk about this tick study that I found. So I have at least one person in my life who had some weird stuff happen, like symptoms of Lyme's disease, that happened during COVID-19. And it's like, was it COVID-19 or wasn't it COVID-19? I don't know what the test status was. I don't know if COVID-19 is real. I think for the most part it's not real. The numbers are fake. And you got Bill Gates with a big stack of books of like all the things he's reading, and in multiple pictures, maybe on purpose. The top book is How to Lie with Statistics, which is this book that pretty much shows you like cases from like the 50s or 60s where it was like 9 out of 10 doctors prefer Camel cigarettes. And it's like, as long as you say the word doctor, you're working with the social fiction, and the dumb plebeian people will believe you, because it's like, oh, that person's got a white coat on, I'm going to do that. And it's the same thing that's happened with COVID and all this movement to like not seeing doctors in real life, and like all these people have been able to make more money from you while giving you less of a product, and you're just sitting there going, I hope I don't die. Sucks, man. And it sucks. It sucks to see so many suckers around me, and including myself in the times where I've been. And the problem with me, I will say, that I find is not so much that I've been a sucker, but that I've tried to take advantage of suckers, in the sense that I've said things that I've been advantageous with trying to push things certain ways. So like early, like mid to late March, I was saying, like, shut everything down. This virus is coming. Shut everything down. If you think it's not that serious, because a lot of people were thinking it's not that serious. I was like, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. Why was I saying that? Because I believed in it? No, because I saw Event 201 before that. I knew it was some top-down war game kind of thing. But I did it because I wanted my rivals in the Milwaukee music scene to shut all their events down. And eventually they did, so I felt vindicated. So I had this shit from the old normal that I wanted to bust people up. So that's how I, in part, ushered in the new normal, which now it's like, oh shit, I'm stuck in a fucking techno commune that I can't get out of. I kind of was before, though. And I feel better when I communicate about stuff. But hey, I've taken a lot of stances, and I'm very Gemini and I'm very Mercurial. So I'm either trying to, a lot of times I'm telling the truth, and people, it doesn't hit people right at all. It doesn't hit people. It doesn't go in. And other times I'm a little bit more of a trickster, but I'm trying to create some levity in the situation for myself and for others that kind of like breaks people free of stupid dogmatic thinking. I certainly need that myself. And sometimes, or very many times, I've become a vibrational match for people with stupid dogmatic beliefs when I am in moments of stupid dogmatic beliefs. And sometimes the way out is just to throw a bomb in there that is a little bit of true and a little bit of funny, and there's a belly laugh, and this is called guerrilla ontology. Robert Anton Wilson, one of my role models, taught me about, and I got a lot of that in my head growing up. But anyway, so like when I first saw this tick study, it's like I sent it to someone I knew, someone in my family who was like going through this stuff, and I thought it was like highly suspicious. I didn't believe what the fuck was going on. I didn't understand why that was the prognosis, and it took like 2 false positives and then another positive, and I just thought, like, from a yogic perspective, like there was these lymph nodes coming out, and I'm just like, that's a throat chakra thing, and it just means you're not saying the truth. It means you're full of bullshit and you're keeping it in, or you're full of something true and you're not letting it out. You're lying. More or less, from a yogic perspective, that's just like a chakra thing. But not a lot of baby boomers know that, and they're brought up in Western allopathic medicine, which is, to me, it just seems like medicines of control and medicines of like fixing war wounds from World War II, and like the Nazi science that we inherited through Operation Paperclip. So yeah, this Microsoft tick study, I don't know what it has to do, what they're really trying to do with it, or like why Microsoft is in charge of like all world health policy, because Bill Gates is the world health star, like it or not now, with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and with Microsoft. It's not just Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, it's Microsoft as well. This tick study is funded by Microsoft. And I'm sure they have like tendrils and a bunch of other things like that. But this seems to be like more and more of a bigger thing. So it's like they'll give you $50 to give you their blood. And then it's like, okay, how can I make sense of this? Why do they want that? Are they and why are they scrubbing down international flights so much? They're not just they scrub things down and they clean things for COVID, but then they do it for insects too. They're trying to kill insects. There's this big there's trying to kill murder hornets, and there's so much shit going on that I don't know and that you don't know unless you do know. There's so much shit going on. There's like and then it's like there's these murder hornet attacks, and there's all this shit that you couldn't tell people about because if you told them about it, they freak out. And if there's like a certain amount of people who get it, you should probably censor them on social media entirely and get them out of the frame so not even people who try to read everything will find it. And then I think about, like, what are the Chinese doing for warfare? Because the Chinese, and I speak Mandarin, so I have studied Chinese culture a lot. There's a virtue. So, like, if you look at the virtues between the G2, I'm staying exactly on topic for you. The G2 countries, China and the United States, they have these chief virtues of, like, the United States is like achievement, and looking good in image, and it's like Enneagram 3 stuff. But then you have China, where they value cunning and clever trickery. I don't necessarily want to say trickery so much. It is trickery. It is mercurial, but there's a long history of valuing that sort of cunning, and they have this face culture, but also, yeah, this cunning. So it's like they could be releasing, and it doesn't necessarily mean the CCP, Chinese government, because China's huge. There's so many groups in China that could be doing things, or there could be American companies in China, like Pure Bright and Microsoft were connected really early on to, like, copywriting coronavirus. It's one of the first things I read. And then that got swapped, and all these fact-check websites went up. It's like, is this true? No, you're an idiot. And I'll stop reading then. China could be doing some kind of natural warfare. I don't know. I don't know why there's so much with insects right now, because it's like it's the mosquitoes with malaria, and Bill Gates has initiatives to kill those off. So it's like, in the sense, like, if I go over in my left wing personality, where it's like the people charging forth into the future are mostly right, and they're using the best new scientific stuff to do awesome stuff for humanity. There's probably a lot of that going on. I don't know, but then my right wing side is like, absolutely not. It's just about power. So, like, trying to find something in the middle. I'm a Gemini, I'm not a Libra, so I have the extremes, and I'm not balanced. But yeah, there's so much insect warfare going on right now. 2020, huge year for insect warfare. Murder hornets, ticks, mosquitoes. It's an all-out offensive on the insect world. And it sounds so goddamn surreal, but it's like headline news or headline propaganda and advertising, same thing. Especially in a world that's like evenly capitalistic and communistic right now. Is Klaus Schwab Blofeld? That's the question I'll leave you with.